Good morning, everybody. Another one of my cups with me, one of my favorites. You said you were interesting. I said I was into resting. One of my favorites. Nothing on the back of this one, just that. Enough about my cup. Let's get on to business. Quote of the day. No matter how predictable your life may seem to be, no matter how solid you have established positive habits, healthful routines, balanced living, you got your ducks in a row. You got everything lined up and you sort of have a game plan that you've been following and it's working for you. Life throws curveballs, both good and bad, our way. Little tiny ones. The coffee pot broke, the fuse blew, car broke down. Big ones. We meet the love of our life. We get fired. We get a bad diagnosis. Synchronicity, coincidence. We never know how we're going to feel one day to the next. Expectations, which usually only serve to get us into trouble. Even once we think we have this game figured out, the rules of how life works and the strategy to play the game successfully to the best of our own abilities. We get dealt a new hand every day when we wake up. We get dealt a new hand, and we have to work with that. Once we've figured out the game, the rules of this card game that we're playing called life, how to strategize, how to win, how to be successful and fulfilled and contented, how to play well, how to play a good game for the quality of our life, for the quality of our health, for the quality of ourself, how to be a good competitor and have good sportsmanship, how to be kind and considerate of other people, how to be a good winner, how to be a good loser, how to handle wins and losses, how to play the game. We finally think we've got a handle on it. The rules of engagement, the strategy. And then life hands us something we weren't expecting. And we have to switch it all up. It's best to manage your expectations. The minute you think you've got it figured out is the minute when something is a surprise is thrown into your deck. A joker is put in your hand. And everything is turned upside down. Learn to manage your expectations. When we get in control of things and things are running smoothly, it's easy for us to think that this strategy, this way of playing, the rules as they are set out before us at this current moment in time is going to be how they are going to stay. When the game is going poorly, we want it to end as soon as possible. We expect change. We expect this to stop as soon as possible. The cards that were dealt or the rules of engagement to change expediently. But when it's going well and we've got it under control, even though we expected and embraced change when it was bad, we assume and forget that change is coming when it's good. There is a lot of life we cannot control. Call it universe, call it God, call it nature, call it chance and circumstance, call it fate, whatever you call it. It's beyond our control. The cards that we're dealt every day are beyond our control. And having that expectation that this is how it's going to be, this is how it's going to stay, and this is the method, the tools and tricks and tips and routines that are going to be effective for me indefinitely because they're effective for me now. These are the people that are going to be there for me because they're there for me now. This is the fulfillment, contentment, happiness, and purpose that I'm going to have for life because it fulfills, contents, and provides me joy now. This is how tomorrow is going to play out because this is how today played out with the way I'm doing what I'm doing. And then tomorrow comes. Unexpected things come. You get jokers in your hand, big and little. And your expectations of how things were going to play out when you're in a positive place don't pan out, and you get easily frustrated, easily knocked off your feet because you didn't expect things to change. You didn't expect your tools that once worked for you to no longer work for you. You didn't expect to have to grow or change or move or adapt. You got set in the rules of the game as you thought that they were and weren't prepared for the rules to change on a dime. You weren't prepared for the next day to play out differently than the last, even though it will. And eventually the tools and skills you develop will have to be developed greater or changed entirely as your life progresses and things progress and the game goes on. The rules are always changing. The dynamics that surround you are always changing. When they're bad, they change. When they're good, they change. When you expect a certain way, we cannot predict the future, they change. Little changes and big changes every day. So it's best to try to level your expectations, not predict the future, not assume during good times that it will always be good, nor count down the seconds during the bad times, assume they will always be bad, or give up and fold. Maintain an open, blank page for the next day. Maintain a loose grip on your expectations for tomorrow. Maintain a loose grip on the tools and skills that are effective, the people in your life. Detach but don't cling to all things that are working for you because they may not always work for you. You may have to try something new. So when you think you've got it figured out, realize you don't. When you think the system you have down is going to serve you always, realize it's not. Don't be rigid and tightly held to exactly what you're doing and how you're doing, even if it's working for you. Because at some point you may need to try something new. You may need to let go of certain things and pick up other things that are going to be more effective for you, given the changing rules of the game. Be willing to be adaptable and flexible, and try to take each day as its own entity, as it is, as it comes, one day at a time, playing the cards that you were dealt that time the best way you can. We can't control the cards that we're dealt each day. That's what makes the game complicated, and the fact that the rules change constantly. Sometimes we get a good hand, sometimes we get a mediocre hand, sometimes we get a bad hand. But we don't have any option but to play the hand we're dealt. That's where your tools, your skills, your conscious mind, your mindfulness, your effectiveness comes in, is how you approach the hands that you're dealt, both good and bad. But you get that day's hand. You don't have yesterday's hand in your hand anymore. That winning streak is over. That losing streak is over. Today is a new day, and today is new cards. Don't expect things to work out the way they worked out before, even with the same approach. It's a new day. It's a new game with new rules and new cards. Every day is a new hand. And we can't predict whether we'll get a good or a bad hand, even if we're doing all the right things. We can only control how we play with the cards we're dealt by the effectiveness of our coping skills, the level of our personal growth, the level of our emotional intelligence, the level of consciousness we use and mindfulness we use. Try to do those next right, most effective choices with the cards that we are dealt. And try not to future predict the way the game is going to play, or the rules will be tomorrow, or the cards that you will get dealt next, based on the cards, the way you played your cards today, because it's a fresh hand. And you set yourself up for disappointment because your expectations are not met, because the card game is beyond your control, what you're handed every day. How good you're going to feel, how bad you're going to feel, whether something comes up, good or bad, pleasant surprises or unpleasant surprises. Everything changes every day. It's new. That offers new possibility and new hope. But it also offers new challenges, because what worked today may not work tomorrow. Level your expectations. Level your hold to your rigid routines and established ways of making things work, because sometimes the way things worked well in the past don't work well in the future. Don't be so rigid. Don't be so attached. Be willing to let go. Be willing to start afresh each day with as little expectation as possible about how the day will run, so that you aren't blindsided when they don't go according to plan, because we can't control the cards we're dealt. And with each hand you're given every day, do the best you can with the cards you're given, through the effectiveness of your emotional fortitude, your internal motivation, your resilience, your capacity to use your prefrontal cortex to make mindful, conscious decisions, to make the most effective next right move, given the cards that you're dealt, even if you have a joker in your hand. Take it one day at a time. Take every day one day at a time. Give yourself a moment, or 2, or 5, or 10, to reflect each day about what's coming and how you might approach it, because you don't know until you get there what's actually going to play out throughout the rest of the day. What other cards are going to be added to your hand? And then attempt to do your best as these cards show up in your hand to play the game well each and every day. Without becoming disheartened to the cards that you're given, or to attach to your approach to the game. And try not to take it too seriously. You get another chance tomorrow. We play out our days as we play out our cards, taking them as they come, not knowing what they will be. Every day is a new hand. Take it as it comes, one day at a time, and do the best to be the most effective in the present day, in the present moment, in the present time with the cards you are given that day. To make the best, play the best game that day. And don't hold fast to what worked yesterday because it was a different deck of cards, it was a different hand, there were different rules. And don't try to repeat it tomorrow because it's a different hand, different deck, different rules.